Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week I'm going to do some watercolor landscape painting. It's going to be quite loose, quite abstract. On screen you can see the materials, or at least most of the materials that I'm using. So it's just the one brush. It's a synthetic hair mop style watercolor brush, a piece of tissue paper. The watercolor paper that I'm using this week is by Winsor & Newton. It's not the brand that I usually use. In fact, I don't think I've ever used their paper before, so it's a bit of an experiment, see what it's like. It's a cold press paper, 300 grams per square meter, 140 pounds, so it's thick enough that it will take quite a bit of water without buckling. And as you'll see, I use a very sort of wet in wet style of painting with this, so I need that thicker paper really. The paint I'm using, you can see the three little tubes left hand side, they're all Sennelier watercolor paint, just the two colors, yellow and blue, but there's two blues. So there's a darker Prussian blue and a sort of mid-value French ultramarine blue. I start with just soaking the paper. I use a little spray bottle, but just a clean brush and clean water will do just as well. It's just to soak the paper. After that, I just sort of make things up as I go along, see what happens. So in this case, I started with the horizon line. If you think of a landscape, so just a basic landscape, you have two big shapes, the land and the sky. Where they meet, horizon line, you can make that a special feature of the painting if you like, especially if you're not doing naturalistic, if you're doing more abstract sort of painting. You can do whatever you want, and then you can make the horizon line a bit special if you like. So that's sort of where I start, and it's a kind of a compositional choice. Do you want to focus on the land or the sky, or a sort of balanced composition? In other words, do you put the horizon line down to the bottom of the paper, focus on the sky, or do you push the landscape, the horizon line up towards the top of the paper, and then you focus on the land? There's no right or wrong, just whatever you want to do. I try to paint like a child would paint. I think as adults, we like to invent lots of rules. You have to do this, you should use that, blah, blah, blah. All these rules, that's, if that's what you want to do, that's great, you go for it. Best of luck. I just like to not have the rules and just do whatever you want to do. So I don't use references, I use imagination. There are pros and cons with that. There are pros and cons with not using rules as well. But not using a reference, if you use a reference, you're copying. And once you copy, you tighten up, you lose the spontaneity, you lose the looseness. Those are things that I want to keep, so I don't use references. The downside of not using a reference is there is a danger that each painting kind of ends up looking the same or very similar, especially when you're using the same sort of color palette. Your imagination is limited, it's not infinite, so if you can get outside and paint from life, that I think is the best way. For me, the second best way is using imagination, and then the third is using some sort of photographic reference. On screen you can see two of the paintings I did. These were done on Thursday afternoon. I did about 4 or 5 paintings. These are 2 of them. And as I say, I'm just trying to have fun with it. And it was nice to get back to doing a bit of watercolor painting. I haven't done any for a while. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.